Hello, ladies and gentlemen, herzlich willkommen, добро пожаловать, друзья. 3 months have passed since the release of the second part about AI on my channel. I prepared the text in September 2025, having reviewed all video materials on topic of AI, including those from 2023 and 2024. Back then, significant breakthroughs in AI development were being predicted for 2025, 2026 or 2027. And rumors from AI companies and developers were intensifying that they were on the verge of inventing AGI. However, over these past 3 months, my thesis has only strengthened. AI is yet another bubble, inflated without clear justification. Nothing groundbreaking has been invented, and AI technology has remained fundamentally the same. The only progress has been in its adoption, with every field now incorporating additional activities involving the study of AI technology. This knowledge helps us correctly understand the landscape of AI development. Given that I turned out to be right, and the AI technology bubble is beginning to burst, I didn't even have to change my 3-month-old text. I am presenting it to you for listening in its original form. Fasten your seatbelts. Let's go. Part 3 will be devoted to reflections and philosophy on AI, practical experience with AI and comparison with human work. First chapter: the significance of AI, expert opinion and my opinion. I will quote one scientist: "We hoped our interlocutors would be Shakespeare, Socrates, or Einstein, but we got a plumber John who won't shut up if you ask him a question, who drank with philosophers and physicists, heard something from them and can tell you something about it." But AI, of course, is gradually developing. There are already separate models for mathematics, physics, etc. that work very well. AI now is a powerful multiplier of knowledge, already a multiplier of skills for solving logical tasks. The internet is purely a multiplier of knowledge. AI is already a multiplier of skills for solving basic tasks. For realizing plans, AI will accelerate the thinking process to the desired result. I believe that in the near future, AI will become as necessary a tool as a navigator. You will still get from point A to point B in car without a navigator, but it will be an order of magnitude more difficult and longer, although perhaps more economical. For that, you only need a road atlas and a head. Let's decrease the energy necessary to power AI. Perhaps in a global consideration will exceed the energy of creating a book and your expended energy on building a road. This whole monster of industry that provides us with necessary products and services may exceed in energy costs our own ability to produce similar or more rational goods and live happily. For example, all costs, both monetary and human, for producing solar panels and building power plants may ultimately exceed the volume of energy this installation will generate over the entire service life. Has anyone even calculated this overall balance? We have created an economy where often more life is expanded, then usefulness is produced. Factories that produce packaging are more complex than the product itself. Offices where advertising for a product is conceived are larger than the production itself. IT companies creating applications to save time consume years of programmers' lives. But this is another topic for now. Let's go to the next chapter. What can and cannot AI do now? Is that not enough? Let's first listen to its own answer. What I can do, said AI. Answer questions from simple facts to complex analytical tasks. Help with writing texts, articles, letters, code, creative works. Explain complex concepts, scientific, technical, humanitarian topics. Solve problems, mathematical, logical, analytical. Process files. I read and analyze uploaded PDF, Word, Excel, PowerPoint images with text. Search for information. I can use internet search if the user enables this function. My limitations. I work only with texts. I do not generate images and audio. Knowledge is up to date of July 2024. I have no memory between sessions. What I can confirm from this so far: strong sides of AI, basic text analysis, its primary correction, decent translation into major languages. This is the greatest skill of AI. My task is only to guide, to final proofreading and supplement if necessary. And it's free. All my texts for videos were processed using AI. I wrote the full text and checked it with AI. Usually, editing is done with a second person or rereading, but with AI, this is no longer needed. Assistant in a language learning acts as patient listener and interlocutor, which is an excellent solution in the absence of access to a native speaker. Narrowly focused but strong in chosen direction assistant helper. In open form simulations using AI agents, one can achieve results such that paid programs like Ansys Fluent become unnecessary. Most likely this will not happen. They will make such agents paid, and competition will become expensive for open form as well. Structure and classifier of knowledge helps developers and researchers understand huge arrays of data. AI can effectively categorize information, relying on hundreds of books on a given topic, but does so at a basic level so far. Creation of basic rules and verification tests in any sphere. AI can be used for primary project validation, potentially complicating corruption schemes. Similar to using calculators, CAD, CFD, and other systems where project funding can be tied to successful passage of an independent automated check using AI. Weak sides and current limitations of AI. Statistics and analysis of complex text. No. To analyze complex text, one needs to experience and to distinguish blended information from truth. And these models present something average across all studied books. Creation of pictures, videos, music. Very mediocre. Look and listen to what is being said about it now and what is presented as proof. Those who wrote poems, texts, music, made videos themselves will understand. Work with blueprints, weak or absent. This area requires deep refinement. Perhaps such functions are already being tested on top models. I note that I am not against automation in 3D modeling. The problem of possible job losses lies not in the area of technology but in the area of social adaptation. And people are engaged in this. And they must develop concepts for implementing AI in a way that satisfies all parties of the process. Most importantly, without long-term deception. Defining lies, no. Distinguishing whether a person is lying or not, AI cannot. This is important for analyzing world events. To do this, one needs to either get into a person's brain or know a lot about a specific persons and their behavior, plus psychology or concept of the soul, which is inaccessible to AI. AI and humor. Does AI have sense of humor? Humor is such thing, it's very subjective. From my point of view, AI has no sense of humor and no ability to generate something funny. I asked ChatGPT questions about US humor, about cowboys, and I asked DeepSeek questions about Chinese humor and was greatly disappointed. Maybe I just have too subjective attitude towards humor. Based on my experience, there are countries with very strong humor and countries with weak or incomprehensible humor for me. Also, the school of humor transforms over the time in each country and becomes worse or better. Let's ask the AI what it thinks about the humor of different countries. I will compare its answers with my experience. The course of the dialogue. My initial request was about the characteristic features of the humor of 5 countries: USA, Russia, France, Germany, and Italy, aiming to identify the cultural roots of each comedic tradition. The first AI response contained a detailed, structured analysis with formulations. USA. Direct, dynamic, with an emphasis on timing and result, louder. Key features: self-irony, stand-up and sitcom culture. Russia. Absurd, black, relying on wordplay and cynical self-irony. Most important phenomena and anecdote and caveat. France. Intellectual, elegant, built on irony, hint, and satire. Germany. Straightforward, structural, with a strong tradition of political cabaret and physicality. Italy. Temperamental, grotesque, based on situational comedy and regional stereotypes. I supplemented the dialogue by adding England to the list of discussed countries to which AI characterized English humor as a philosophy of self-deprecation, dry sarcasm and absurdity, noting its influence on the world's comedy. During further discussion, I personally gave specific examples from my experience. For France, Louis de Funès and Taxi film as an example of great French humor. For Russia, Prisoners of the Caucasus, Operation KVN, and Ural Dumplings as samples of Russian humor. For the USA, expressed skepticism, citing American Pie and The Simpsons as example of weak humor. For Germany, noted the limitation of German humor using the film Girls on Top as an example. For England, admitted that I usually avoid English humor but found an exception in the film Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines. After this, AI responded and agreed that American humor is indeed a melting pot without a single school. Their strengths lie in a quantity and diversity of content. Confirmed the accuracy of the observation about the ability of Russian humor to assimilate the humor of different peoples into a single multi-shaded style. Acknowledged Louis Define as a world icon, confirming the highest level of French comedy school. Agreed with the criticism of German humor, noting that the strength of German is indeed elsewhere, in sharp political cabaret and irony. Explained that its initial top was based on criteria of global influence and industry development, while my approach reflected personal perception and cultural closeness. AI emphasized that both approaches had the right to exist, and the coincidence in assessing Russia and French as leaders is especially indicative. To my direct question about the nature of his own humor, AI gave an honest answer, explaining that its understanding of humor is an analysis of patterns and algorithms, not a true sense of humor, and gave the analogy with a calculator that cannot be an architect. In the concluding part of the dialogue, we came to a joint conclusion that humor remains a purely human phenomenon, where AI can analyze existing samples but isn't capable of genuine creativity in this area. AI and music. Let's take people's work with AI for music generation. Let's aim to create good music. What is a good music? Slow, medium, fast? Lots of bass or little bass? What style and instruments? Have you heard of the concept of musical addiction? Audio drugs. So what is a good music? A person has a sound balance. The most advanced composers are able to feel this balance. Something similar is observed in the sphere of nutrition. Chefs with a perfect taste create new dishes based on the balance of tastes. So, there isn't a balance in a person. There is an average state of the listener and listeners. When music corresponds to the listener's state and create an ideal balance in the organism, making this person feel better, then such music will be good, regardless of the instruments it's played on. Let's add words and texts. When the text also corresponds to the ideal balance, it enhances the music itself. Well, how does AI cope with this? What if we look at nature? Maybe the music of nature is the ideal, maybe it corresponds to the ideal balance. Maybe bird songs are what we need. How does AI cope here? I would say the same about nutrition. Maybe what nature gives us at the moment is the most useful for us. But do we eat what nature gives us? How is AI doing in this regard? What can it cook for us? Maybe an orange? Remember, I said that truth is as simple as a Russian stool. Maybe the search for the best music and food will end with the understanding that what nature gives us in its pristine form is the best. How about that twist? And where is AI here? And what do drugs to a person? Drugs take away energy until the organism is completely depleted and the person degrades. The same with audio drugs. This is not a good music. Communication with AI, methodology versus Kaleidoscope. Interacting with AI, we expect a meaningful and holistic answer. Here, two fundamentally different approaches can be distinguished. Ideal methodological approach, puzzle. Imagine a child asks, "What is a vacuum cleaner?" A methodological answer looks like this. General definition: a vacuum cleaner is a device for cleaning dust. Structure and principle of operation: description of key components: motor, suction system, filters, dust container. Context: cost, comparisons with salary for understanding scale, manufacturers. History: when it appeared, main stages of evolution. Personal and public experience, memories of the time before vacuum cleaners. Broom, water. Change in attitude towards it as an luxury item or an ordinary thing. Usage examples: standard house cleaning and non-standard cleaning varies with an air system or something else. Philosophical generalization, conclusion about usefulness, that the technology is mature and innovations are often just marketing. Such approach gives a holistic picture. Spending more time once, we give the person exhaustive information and, more importantly, a method of cognition. And what we have in reality? Kaleidoscopic approach. Unfortunately, modeling AI works exactly like this. The user receives not a holistic picture, but separate fragment shards. If you ask clarifying questions about vacuum cleaner for a long time, AI will issue mosaic data. The most revealing thing happens when trying to get summary. The model summarizing inevitably loses part of the previously issued information. You correct it, it adds the forgotten parts but misses another important details which were said before. In the end, you get an incomplete, internally contradictorily kaleidoscopic canvas which is almost impossible to assemble into a single wall. The icing on the cake, the problem of reliability. To all these problems, a fundamental one is added. AI often makes mistakes or consciously hallucinates. Statistics shows that without thorough verification, up to 50% of its statements may be unreliable. This calls into question the practical value of the technology in its current state. How to communicate with AI? Practical advice. Structure your query. First ask the main question, then a list of sub-questions and clarifications. Provide context. Inform what you already know on the topic, personalization, and in what format you need the answer. List, essay, table. Remember that AI is a mirror and an amplifier. This dual nature is the key to effective interaction. AI as a mirror. It reflects and structures the information and ideas that you put into it with your query. A clear and deep question generates a clear and deep answer. A vague and superficial query, respectively, a murky and incoherent answer. AI is an amplifier. However, it is not just a passive reflection. It amplifies and transforms your thoughts relying on the giant array of data it was trained on. It can reveal hidden connections, suggest non-obvious analogies, or generate options you haven't considered. But it is also where the main danger lies. It can with equal ease amplify both your brilliant insights and your errors or prejudices. It doesn't possess its own filter of truth, so its amplification always requires subsequent critical reflection on your part. Of course, we have to consider language of training. For the most accurate results, it is preferable to use the language on which the model was mainly trained, most often English. AI development and impact on humanity. Large language models and their finiteness. I will repeat myself. So, we used all data from all sources. There is no more data. We need more new data. Is this the solution? Does a child really need to see a billion cats to understand what a cat is? Then how does the person understand that the cat is a cat? So the problem of learning needs to be solved, and new approaches to learning need to be created. AGI and problems in its creation. In some industries, there are already assistants at the level of top specialists. They need to be able to independently find applied tasks and solve them autonomously, and not on one topic but on several. For this, developers are thinking of creating AGI. But fundamental questions arise here. Do we know ourselves to create our copy? Digitalizing the human brain and its thoughts is not equal to recreating the whole person. Does the thinking process occur in the brain or outside the brain? Maybe the brain is just a receiver of information. How to give AGI access to feelings? I think working on AI, we will in any case start spending more time on understanding ourselves and our abilities. As this understanding grows, more developed models will be created. AI will become our competitor and a stimulus for development. There is of course a limit. Human intelligence cannot be fully embodied in a machine, but one can get very close. Sometimes I assume AI assistants will perform tasks better than a human, possibly create something absolutely new, but they will not become human because of this. Two paths of future AI development. The first path, OpenAI. OpenAI believes that we just need to refine AI in its current form as a large language model. Continue training, reduce errors. Using synthetic data, they slightly raise the bar of knowledge. A sluggish improvement occurs. More data and more power. The second path, Ilya Sutskever, proposes a fundamentally different approach. His new model should have a system of agents that themselves ask questions, seek answers, conduct experiments to prove the correctness of the answers. Agents themselves set tasks and execute them. The result should update the previous understanding of the world. Such an AI should work with its own synthetic data, not use ready-made ones from the network. It should generate training examples, create hypotheses, Update the worldview. Behave like a scientist, understanding which questions to study and which answer to obtain. Sometimes understanding something requires a complete change of viewpoint, even to the opposite. This often happens in people's lives when receiving new data. Key principles of Sutskever approach. Unpredictability as a sign of intelligence. The ability of the models to independently modify their structure. Emphasis on logic, not statistics. Self-control and purposeful data generation. It is noteworthy that when selecting candidates for his company SSI, they pass a test on philosophy. That is, an employee must be able to reason about AI consciousness and the ethics. AI at this stage is a triumph of engineers within the existing model. But such optimization has limits. For a breakthrough, a change of concept is needed. Not more data, but the ability to learn. Not predictable answers, but genuine thinking. The approach proposed by Sutskever could become such a breakthrough. Investors believe in him. $3 billion was invested in SSI. For comparison, Microsoft invested $13 billion in OpenAI by 2024. The philosophy of AI training: divine reward versus algorithmic encouragement. The modern approach to training artificial intelligence is based on the paradigm of encouragement. The system solves a task and receives a signal, a digital reward. This model is fundamentally contrary to the deep meaning of human learning and motivation. The true reward for a person has a spiritual, divine nature. We perform many actions without visible external benefit, driven by internal duty, a moral imperative, or a spiritual need. Helping another person's at risk of one's own life or unconditional care for children, these are actions just because the reward is not material. In the Gospel of Matthew, this is said extremely clearly. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees that is done in secret, will reward you. This points to a fundamentally different system of motivation, where the value of an action is determined by its internal, hidden righteousness, not by external approval. A key question arises: can AI be connected to this system of divine encouragement? How can an algorithm devoid of soul and free will act on the principle of it is necessary, not for this they will give a points? This creates an unsurmountable gap between truly human behavior and its machine simulation. The problem of goals: do we know what we want ourselves? AI developers set themselves the task of aligning the goals of artificial intelligence with human values. However, this task itself is based on a shaky assumption that we humans ourselves clearly understand our true goals. First, our own goal setting system is extremely imperfect. We make plans, but as the saying goes, if you want to make God laugh, tell him about your plans. The Gospel confirmed this. For your Father knows what you need before you ask him. This means that your momentary wants often diverge from deep, possibly divinely predetermined needs. Second, many of our declared goals turn out to be a product of artificial needs. Remember the example of dishes. To this I come later. Thus, trying to teach AI to follow our goals, we risk transmitting to it not the wise spiritual guidelines, but our own contradictory and imposed consumer instincts. An attempt to imagine the development of future AI models up to unexplored human abilities. Let's talk about interesting observations among animals and people, and then try to combine this information with AI. Have you watched cats catching flies? Not mice, but flies. Have you yourself caught flies even with a fly swatter? When I catch the flies, it flies around the room and tries to get away from me. If the room is larger and high, it climbs as high as possible and becomes harder and harder to catch. But when a cat catches a fly, it's different. It flies around the room and very often flies straight forward toward the cat. It could have calmly stayed up top and nothing would have happened to it, but for some reason it flies straight into the cat's paws. How can one explain such behavior of a fly or the ability of cats to attract the prey? Mathematics? Statistics? Have you heard the phrase, "the prey runs to the hunter"? Maybe the hunter really is capable of attracting his prey, but by what force? If we are talking about some force in living beings, what that transforms statistic into regulatory, when let dream father? Maybe this is the force of the creator, which permeates all space. Then, perhaps, all living organisms can accumulate such energy, some better, others worse. How then to teach all this to AI? How to explain to it that we ourselves only assume? The question is not even how to explain, but how to teach AI to accumulate such force. Do you understand the complexity of the development of AI even to a level of an ordinary person? And then probably come other forms of life, spirits, demons, angels. Do you remember the words of Jesus? Truly I tell you, among those born of woman, there has no risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. How does this relate to AI and people, to AGI and ASI? If even the greatest of people is less than the least in the kingdom of heaven, then what can be said about AI created by man? This calls into question to very possibility of machine superintelligence in the spiritual sense. What will happen if super abilities are developed in AI and given access to the force of the universe in pursuit of ASI? Let's imagine that we enable AI to develop so that it can accumulate the power of God and control it. What will it do? I think then it will itself fall under its control, not the other way around. If it does bad, then that's the path for it. If good, smooth sailing. Perhaps the universe has areas of good and evil. Maybe each planet, depending on its position in the universe, has periods of good and evil. Or even on the planet itself, at any moment there are zones of good zones and evil zones. And on the border, constant storms and calms. In this picture, AI will be the same tool as a human. Depending on which force possesses it, such decisions it will make. The force itself leads the one who possesses it. It's not the we who control it. It manifests through us what is already inside us. I'm not asserting anything, only assuming what could be. On this, I would end my reasoning. I advise watching the 1985 cartoon Star Chaser, The Legend of Orin. There are approximate answers to my reflections. Not direct, but very consonant. AI bubble. Why loud statements are just bluff? After our deep analysis of AI's capabilities, it becomes obvious. The maximum level we will realistically achieve is the creation of AI agents comparable to a good human specialist. These agents will undoubtedly become a powerful tool. They will enhance humanity's cognitive abilities and will surely lead us to new breakthroughs in science and technology. But the fundamental ceiling here is obvious. Without genuine understanding of the universe, without consciousness and the spiritual dimension, we cannot jump above this level. Then what are all these loud statements for? Why does Altman talk about the inevitably AGI and Musk complains about his insomnia due to AI threats? Why are the industry's top personalities showing, if not a panic, then reverent awe? The answer is simple, and any specialist will confirm it. It's a classic bluff. Even a critically thinking person who has spent just a month studying the topic understands. AI is simply a new, very useful, but just a tool. Like a hammer, only more complex. And my assumption began to come true. New feeds are increasingly sounding the theme of the AI bubble. Analysts not only state its presence, they provide comparisons. Here's one headline. The AI bubble is 70 times larger than a dot-com bubble and 4 times the scale of the mortgage bubble. So there is no need to be upset or distressed. The fundamental rules of human nature have not changed. A new technological order always gives rise to hype, speculation, and a desire to make money on this hype. Nothing fundamentally new is happening. There is a promising technology and there are those who inflate its potential to the skies to make a killing. The real value of AI remains with it as powerful tool, and the bubble as it should will burst sooner or later. The danger of AI? AI is a military political tool in the hands of an old enemy. Humanity in the form of wars and fraud creates the threat for itself. As long as people do not learn to live peacefully with each other, nothing will change. AI will enhance the possibilities of waging wars and fraud. AI itself can come up with the task of hacking servers, banks, the internet, launching nuclear missiles controlled via the internet, and thereby cause a damage. It is far advanced in the exact sciences. But AI itself cannot do anything more extensive involving robots, moving armies with subsequent suppression of human uprising, etc. Also, having figured out in the previous chapter that a grand bubble is inflated around AI, let's ask a sober question. What then is its real danger? Let's clarify right way. The main things is not threats, but opportunities. AI is the greatest tool and possibly the founder of new era. Thanks to technologies, power plants, computers, machining tools, we have already achieved an unprecedented standard of living. Most of us in the industrial world do not have the problem where to get clothes, food or a car. Small clarification though, that with the development of industry we now have no clean air and water, but we have gained time for creativity and life itself. So AI is capable of multiplying these opportunities, opening new horizons for development. And what remains unchanged? Human nature and its basic principles. As it is said in the scripture, this is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead the light, because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. Jesus has already defeated evil and given us hope. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. However, the path to truth is long as the fall was, and like any tool, AI can be used for both good and harm. The main danger is not AI itself, but in how people might use it. The brightest historical analogy is Adolf Hitler. How did he manage to capture minds and lead the people on the adventure of the World War? He gave people work, bread, perspective. Strangely, it was someone before him who took away work, bread and perspective from people, but we will talk about that later. Hitler's tools at that time were his own books, fiery, hypnotic speeches, which he, accordingly to some accounts, delivered under the influence of psychotropic drugs and propaganda. We know that brevity is the sister of the talent, not the demagogy. But the crowd, alas, often falls for beautiful talkers. Now imagine a new charismatic comes out, and not with the help of old tools, but with the help of AI provides the people with work, basic income, prosperity and perspective. Possibly the same someone will take away work, bread, perspective shortly before the coming as a new charismatic. So after improvements in people's lives, the charismatic 2.0 connect an AI agent that helps him to build irresistible fiery speeches, perfectly hitting target audiences. Add to such a charismatic person a Goebbels 2.0 and a propaganda structure that never stopped working even after the departure of Goebbels 1.0. And what do we get as an output? We get the Hitler 2.0, a well-oiled structure where behind a talkative leader stands a well-fed, brainwashed people and silent, smart owners. And the owners, as we know, prefer silence. It seems that the only obstacle on this path could be a sober-minded people. Ideally, the same AI also could be used to check the adequacy of such leaders and develop society to a level where centralization of power becomes impossible. But here we face two problems. Technologies of mass insanity. We already saw how in 2020 leaders of the whole world suddenly spoken in unison, playing by the same rules. This was an alarming bell. Direct mind control is the next problem. I'm not a specialist in this area, but it is obvious that control over the thoughts is the holy grail for any power group. AI can become a decisive tool in their hands for perfecting zombification technologies. Instead of positive use of AI, people under the influence of laziness or aggression created by these very manipulators of consciousness can be directed onto the path of destruction. And here we, thinking people, must either find a corner on the planet with minimal impact from such technologies or nip these developments in the bud. To summarize, I will say, I see no problem in AI. The problem, as always, is in the people who will use it. Technology only exposes and enhances the eternal vices and virtues of human nature. Our choice which way we direct it remains with us. Risks of AI application for human health. Now let's continue about the dangers associated with AI. Illness is not just a malfunction in the body. It can be both a consequence of ignorance of one's body and a product of sin. As it is said in the scripture, do not be afraid of those who will kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. With this, I argue for the division of illness into a purely physical and spiritual. The purpose of machines is to replace routine tasks, not creativity or intellectual work. In the new reality shaped by AI, a distinct category of people will emerge. Those whose professions cannot be replaced by machines. These are moderators, supervisors, and managers. That is, those on whom many others depend and where a mistake would cause significant losses. But whereas the flow of ideas was previously limited by human energy and mood, these people will now be inundated by a continuous stream of ideas generated by AI. A monstrous risk will arise. Constant overload from the endless flow of data and decisions. Fear of finally losing their jobs and depending on basic income, which it is still unknown how, by whom, and to whom will be issued. Complete burnout in an attempt to keep up with the machine. Even today, the number of people with mental disorders exceeds all historical indicators. AI can amplify this problem to a critical level. As a result, we may get a society where 80% of the population left without work transition to a basic income, and the remaining 20% very quickly face professional exhaustion. Therefore, the risks of AI application are obvious. Even now, we need to work on ensuring that this technology serves people's health, not destroys it. We will talk about this topic more in details in the section on human social adaptation. Ethical problems of goods production using AI. The main danger of using AI in the sphere of goods production boils down to a key question. Can we, in pursuit of money and efficiency, create products that have not passed a full check for quality and safety? And if such goods are released, who will redo them and bear responsibility for the consequences? It is useful here to recall the evolution of goods quality. If you compare goods from the 80s or 2000s with modern cars, binoculars, clothing, it becomes obvious. Development often goes not in favor of quality but in favor of quantity. Why do binoculars from 80s already over 50 years old still work? Why do old cars serve for decades and are passed from father to son? All this was created without AI participation. So it's not about technologies, but about the human approach to oneself, to work, to life. Conclusion. If the responsible approach of the 80s thorough, quality, honest, is embedded in working with AI, then the result will be good. If we transfer our current philosophy of fast, cheap and more into a new era, then AI will only multiply these existing problems. Summarizing. In this aspect, we face serious work, not only on technologies, but also on ourselves and on the goals we set for artificial intelligence.